And has that effort at diversity been over your efforts in order to fight these fires? Because that's been the criticism. You know it's out there.
Absolutely not.
Flashback.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
So today we're going to look at the political fallout from the LA fires and who's to blame. This is Kristen Crowley, the first woman to become chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department.
Our next guest has shattered a big glass ceiling here in Los Angeles. A couple weeks ago, on the first day of Women's History Month, she was named the city's first female fire chief. Say that 5 times fast. And that's not the only barrier she broke through, y'all. She's also the department's first openly gay leader as well. So let's welcome and congratulate soon-to-be Los Angeles Fire Chief Kristen Crowley.
Oh, thank you.
Today I am nominating Kristen Crowley to serve as the chief of this fire department and the first woman to ever be in that position.
I mean, I understand, the significance, the historical significance of what this means. A first is a first, right? And so I understand that. But the amount of media and even the outpour of support, I knew I had support, but wow, I am so pleasantly surprised.
Now, with the new chief in place, the department wanted to diversify as much as possible. And that was one of the chief's main focuses in her first year. Here is the chief explaining it.
And for the first time in history of the department, she is a woman. Kristen Crowley will lead the nation's 3rd largest firefighting force in our 2nd biggest city as a push for diversity continues in a male-dominated field.
I'm super inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I said, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
So now DEI was in full effect in LA County. They didn't want to hire any more white male firefighters. They wanted them to be more diverse. So they started doing things to discourage white applicants. Here is comedian Adam Carolla talking about his experience when he applied as a white cisgender male.
Geez, I want to talk about my white privilege so badly. I graduated North Hollywood High with a 1.7 GPA. I could not find a job. I walked to a fire station in North Hollywood. I was 19. I was living in the garage of my family home. My mom was on welfare and food stamps, and I said, can I get a job as a fireman? And they said, no, because you're not black, Hispanic, or a woman. We'll see you in about 7 years. And I went to a construction site and dug ditches and picked up garbage for the next 7 years. I got a letter in the mail sent to my father's house saying, your time has come to do the written exam for the LA Fire Department. I took it, and I was standing in line, and I had a young woman of color standing behind me in line, and I said, just out of curiosity, when did you sign up to become a fireman? Because I did it, or a person, 7 years ago, and she said, Wednesday. That is an example of my white privilege.
So now this led to an uncomfortable reality that they had a lot less firefighters in LA County. So this led to a shortage of firefighters. But the city wasn't done. They decided to cut the fire budget because, hey, if we don't have people applying for the job, why do we need so many firefighters? Here's the chief begging the city not to cut fire services.
Fire department needs to be properly funded, and it's not.
It's not at this point, and we've got the justification. We know where our gaps in service are. We know we need 62 new fire stations. We need to double the size of our firefighters. The growth of this city since 1960 has doubled, and we have less fire stations.
Let's repeat that, because those numbers are a little jarring. 20 years ago, you had more fire stations than you had now?
We had 112 fire stations. Now we have 106. And since 2010, we've had an increase, doubled our call volume, which is firefighters responding to calls, 55% increase with 68 less firefighters.
So the city funding is not keeping up with the city's needs in real time.
No, and that's what our firefighters need. Since day one, this is my third budget as we're going into 25-26. What I can tell you is we are still understaffed, we're still under-resourced, and we're still underfunded. So with that, whether it's 7 million, 10 million.
But was the budget cut, Chief?
Yes, it was cut.
In December, you wrote that memo. You said that these budget cuts were going to severely affect your department, from everything from brush clearance checks to make sure homeowners were doing what they needed to do, to fire hydrant checks. And yet you heard the mayor just yesterday say, no, those cuts did not affect the ability to serve and would not have changed anything in this situation. What is going through your mind? And I know this is difficult. There are a lot of politics at play. You are not a politician. You are the woman responsible for all these men and women at LA City Fire and for our residents in the city of Los Angeles. When you hear the mayor say it didn't affect anything at all, what is going through your head, if you can share that with us?
Sure. So just full transparency. Again, my position is to make sure that our people get what they need to do their jobs, and also, mind you, that they get to go home to their families.
Okay, so let's get to the details of what actually happened. See, the LA County Fire Department budget was cut by $17.6 million, about 2% for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Now, because of these budget cuts, some of the preventative measures that the LA Fire Department did, they couldn't do anymore.
About $17 million in budget cuts for this year alone. Has that impeded your firefight?
It has. And the reality with any type of budget cut, it absolutely hampered our ability to provide service on a day-to-day basis, let alone on something historical like the multiple fires that have negatively impacted our communities. It absolutely hampered us.
You've been asking for years for more money. And what has the city or the mayor said in response?
So first and foremost, as I take a big step back, I've got the honor and privilege to represent the amazing men and women of our organization. My job is to make sure that our firefighters have what they need, tools, equipment, training, so that we can serve the community, period. So since day one, we've been fighting for, I stepped up, my team stepped up, and we've identified gaps in our service. So for 3 years now, I've been ringing the alarm and saying the fire department does not have enough resources, and it's validated across the board. Our firefighters are doing everything they can do with what they've got. It's not enough. We've had a 55% increase in overall call volume since 2010, and we're doing it with 68 less people. We can't do it anymore, and it's time for me to step up. I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant like every other firefighter in the LAFD. It's my job to make sure that we step up and we do what we need to do and we get them what they need. We need to be funded.
It must be very difficult to be in your position and sound the alarm. It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not easy, but it's the right thing to do. And that is why, again, I'm in the seat at this very moment. And look back 3 years. This is not a new issue that I have raised. We have document after document after document that justifies that the fire department is under-resourced, underfunded, and understaffed. So we're at this pivot point. So that is the position that I am going to take and I continue to take for 3 years. We are at that breaking point, and the firefighters, as you know, are absolutely amazing. But it's not sustainable. It is time to make sure that our firefighters get what they need in regard to the equipment, the tools, and the training so they can go do their jobs.
Well, speaking of the tools and the equipment, one thing that's crazy when I heard is you have tons of equipment not even being used just because you can't pay mechanics to fix it.
We actually have approximately it's actually $50 million worth of fire department apparatus that we don't have people to work on.
So we have an underfunded fire department with a lot less people who are trying to go diverse but can't hire enough firefighters. Then their budget is slashed, and then on top of all that madness, the fire hydrants that's supposed to have water for you to fight fires happen to be empty during the worst fire in the city's history. Here is Gavin Newsom trying to figure it out.
Governor Gavin Newsom is also facing questions over the response. On Friday, he ordered an investigation into why a 117 million gallon reservoir in the Pacific Palisades was out of service and the loss of water pressure to some fire hydrants, calling it deeply troubling.
Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
That's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be.
I would fill up the hydrants myself.
I understand.
But would you do that?
I would do whatever I can.
But you're not!
For the moment, Mayor Bass wants to stay focused on the fires.
When the fires are out, make no mistake, we will have a full accounting of what worked and especially what did not.
So this story seems to have a lot of incompetence to go around. You have no water in the fire hydrant. You got issues with hiring enough firefighters. You want to go DEI, but then that's at the expense of having a fully staffed fire department. Then you have budget cuts, and they cut preventative services that leads to wildfires not being taken care of before they get out of hand. Now, all of this madness seems to come down to one thing. It's mismanagement, and you gotta call a spade. Democratic governor, Democratic legislature, Democratic local leadership, they have to hang this on their head. And really think about this, people. There are less firefighters in LA today with twice the population than there was 20 or 30 years ago. This makes absolutely no sense. But tell me where I'm wrong in the comments. As always, my name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.